It's the internet, you're busy, let's do this. This is the GamesBeat Decides podcast. It's the podcast where we decide everything in the world of video games so you don't have to. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti.
I'm Mike Minotti, I'm not the Grubb name.
And with us as well is Jason Wilson. Say hi, Jason.
Hello.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about some news, we're going to talk about some games, and we're also going to talk about the lack of games coming out of Microsoft Studios. But first, I want to thank everyone for joining us. You can get more from me, Mike, and Jason at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, you should email this podcast at gamespluspodcast@VentureBeat.com. That's the plus sign. You can also get us on Twitter at GamesBeat or at GBDecides. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, there's an audio version of this podcast. You can get that on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere like that, anywhere where you're catching pods. Finally, if you like the show, review us on one of those services. It helps people find it. How you guys been? Did you get a chance to watch the eclipse this morning?
No, I worked.
No, that's weird.
I don't know. I was walking outside when it was happening, maybe, and I was like, I didn't have any glasses, so I was kind of like trying to take a picture of my phone. It just looked like the sun to me.
Yep. That's right. That's how it would work if you're just looking at it through your phone. The phone camera thing didn't work very well for anyone, I don't think. That was kind of all-around bad advice. I saw it, though. I had glasses. I had a bunch of extra ones. I was, sitting at Starbucks, selling them for, $5 a piece, just trying to make my money back.
Even if I wasn't busy editing your work, I wouldn't have seen it because the fog was so thick in the Bay Area that I couldn't, where I live, I couldn't see anything.
300 sunny days a year in Denver, so I was counting on being able to see it, and it was very clear. It was nice and... I guess if you can't see the sun at all, if it was that foggy, you wouldn't see it. But I don't know. If you look up directly at the sun, even through some of the clouds that did pass in front of us, in front of me for parts of it, I was still able to see how the moon was waning in front of it and stuff. It was pretty cool. I'm glad I got a chance to see it. Probably won't be able to see the next one. It's coming in 2024 in North America, and it's on the other side of the country. So we'll see.
Do you say that because it's on the other side of the country, or because none of us are going to survive until 2020 because of Trump?
Well, yeah, all those things, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to ask.
I mean, the nuclear holocaust, I'll be able to see plenty of new kinds of eclipses caused by nuclear winter. I'm sure that'll be very fun. I don't know. So, you guys been up to anything else other than not looking at celestial bodies?
No. I was in D.C. last week. No, for nothing too exciting. I had to see the Enterprise model there, though, at the Air and Space Museum, so that was fun.
Oh, that's cool. I always like how...
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I always like how the NASA museums bring in sci-fi stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, it used to be in,
such thing as Star Wars?
In it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Nah, that's kind of the idea there, if it, no such thing.
Star Wars is not much younger than I am.
All right. Yep, I don't know. Still, I would have liked that to be the case.
2 years. 2 years.
Okay, well, yeah. So it would have been had you gone to Smithsonian, you wouldn't have gotten much out of it. I don't know. Let's talk about some games, I guess, in that case. I know a lot of us haven't been playing anything too much new, but Mike, I wanted to give you a chance to talk about Sonic Mania again.
You.
Yeah, now that we've all played it and you didn't get a chance to yell at us last week because you were in DC.
I was pleased that you all like Sonic Mania, but I was very upset that you guys were perpetuating this whole Sonic was never good bullcrap that you're going around these days.
I don't think we said that.
I think I did. I think I said
it. He knows.
I think I said it. I still kind of feel that way, but I'm definitely exaggerating. Well, it was good in its time, and then when you look back and you're like, why didn't it continue to grow in the way Mario did? It's why was Mario versus Sonic ever a thing? I think I said that too. That's what I didn't really. That's what I'm feeling now today. At the time, I got it, but I don't know.
I think those games still hold up as well as any 16-bit platformer. I think they are I think those three games.
They're not Gex.
CD.
Yeah, okay.
They're Hall of Fame games. Yeah, they're not Gex. Oh my God, no! It's beyond that, Jeff. They're all-time great games. You're not appreciating.
No, by saying they are all-time great games, you mean every Sonic game is an all-time great game?
No, I mean Sonic 1, 2, 3, and CD.
Yeah, I mean those
the classic 2D ones.
Those games are very good.
Number one, I'm just as bad as Sonic as I was when it first came out.
Controlling Sonic is still a pain, even though I really like this game.
And second, my kid is better than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You just don't have those Sonic reflexes that you need.
Well, I never had the reflexes.
Why is controlling Sonic such a nightmare? Why is it so bad?
I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're just bad at games.
No,
it's not a nightmare.
Wait, okay, so I was actually...
What's your problem? What is the issue?
Anytime that you're not going fast, it's so hard to get Sonic to do the thing you want him to do. It's he needs to jump. His jump is weird. It's not like if you hold down jump longer, you're going to jump that much higher. There's like... You either jump like half as high or all the way as high as he possibly can jump, and it's like very finicky. You have to really, really nail it. And
I don't know, because like I said, I grew up with Sonic literally like my very, very early days were NES, but right after that was Sonic on Genesis. So maybe I'm just so used to it. To me, it's as second nature as any Mario style platform.
I think
it makes complete sense to me.
Well, here's another thing too: is the jump isn't as crisp as it is in the Mario game.
No,
let me finish.
People say that. People always use Mario as this example of how every platformer needs to control. And they always say things like, it's not as crisp, or it's not as... And I don't even know what that means anymore. It just doesn't feel like Mario.
Here's what I'll say.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, the jump is not as crisp. And the reason why it's not as...
Yeah, explain that. I mean, I have my own feelings on that, but go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so... when you jump with Sonic, your jump is not only... It only works if you're going fast, because that's how the designers intended. But if you're not going fast, the jump is... because that's the way it's supposed to be, because you're supposed to be running through the stage at breakneck speed.
Yes, what I'm hearing is it's not like Mario, right? But it isn't. You're not supposed... No. I'm not criticizing.
It's not like any other platformer.
Right, but the point is that in Mario, you can jump out of standing still and build up momentum that way. You're not going to do that in Sonic. You have to build up your momentum first. And it's one of the reasons why they give you the spin dash. So a lot of times that's your move out of stillness, is just going into that, and that's immediately building up your momentum.
I think that might be one of the reasons why I like this game so much better, is because it does have that jump into spin dash, which is something I guess...
And that
is new, and it makes a big difference.
But here's the second thing. Other platforms, and I'm going to use Mario here, are very good at teaching you how to do each maneuver. Sonic's not. It seems you know how.
That's kind of touches on the point that, my problem with the platforming and the combat as well. I don't necessarily know what state Sonic is in just based on looking at him. I'll go to attack an enemy, and I'm like, I think I should be able to kill this enemy because I'm spinning in midair, and I go to do it, and I still get damage. I take damage, I lose all my rings, and I'm just...
They have spikes.
I mean, no, some of them are just flying in the air, and they don't have spikes, and I think I am getting more accustomed to understanding if Sonic can damage an enemy or not, but it's only because I'm playing this Sonic game so much more than I've played so many other Sonic games. Sure. But I just feel like it doesn't do a great job of informing me by using its very colorful visual style, which is great in every other way. It's just not great at telling me what state Sonic is in. And yes, I think you're right that there is some value in having a game that treats momentum very differently than Mario, and that it's okay that it does that. It is more of a hump. It takes a lot more understanding. It's not quite as intuitive, which maybe I think Jason's issue with it, and maybe mine up to this point.
I can't comment on intuitiveness because I've been playing these games my entire life, so
yeah,
I'm used to it.
And your brain works differently than ours does.
Yeah, all that crack cocaine, yeah.
All right, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree because I'll just keep getting mad at you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that, to me, Mario seems to work the way I predict physics to work in real life, and I think that's where when people say, oh, Mario's just better, I think that's what they mean. It's more accurate to how you understand real-world physics, and Sonic is...
Now you're losing me again. Now, we had our resolution here.
I'm
agree with you.
I don't...
Sonic's the one where you, will build up momentum kind of, for a longer period of time, especially going downhill, uphill.
No, I'm not saying, momentum at the expense of everything else. I just think that the jumping physics and things like that they're fine. They're not. This is not a qualitative.
I will agree too. The jumping physics are unique, especially when you're on slopes and stuff like that.
They're just not. Yeah, they're just not. They're incongruous from what you expect the way reality to work. So you have to learn Sonic's own unique physics.
But
that's all.
Okay, but I agree with that. But I don't think I agree that Mario is close to reality physics. And
not close to reality. It just works how you expect things to.
Well, so it works how you expect video game platforming to because it's the standard. right?
There could be something there. You could be right. I think you get a new ball and you throw a ball and it bounces the way you expect it to most of the time. And if you got a ball that like doesn't bounce at all, that's kind of that's the difference, I think.
Here's my question for you guys.
Yo.
What platform are you playing it on?
Switch.
Well, I played it on PlayStation 4 and also Switch.
I'm playing it on Switch too, which is interesting because it's on a couple platforms and we're all picking Nintendo's. Why is that?
Because especially for this game, right? Like some other multi-platform things, like if it was the new Madden, you'd be like, oh, it's not going to look as good. This is, retro 16-bit style game. And, there's some, like, it is technically on 4K on a PlayStation 4 Pro, right? And that's nice. But, I mean, how much
1080p is enough, yeah.
Right. For this, I mean, just the convenience of being able to take it to bed or the bathroom or wherever is really neat. The only performance issue it has compared to the other ones is a slight frame rate drop in the bonus stage, which you won't really even notice.
I will say that I'm getting some crashes on Switch here and there.
No, I never got a crash.
Yeah, I was hearing that was kind of busted. I didn't experience anything until this happened like the night before last because I just can't find my Switch right now. I'm kind of panicking, but yeah.
I just think it's interesting because Jeff prefers to play most things on PC because he's our PC gaming editor.
Yeah, but
here he is playing it on Switch. I'm playing it on Switch, and we all know I prefer playing everything I can on a PC because I'm in front of one more than I am at any other system. And Mike is playing on a Switch too. And I just think I can't remember the last time there was a multi-platform game that we were all playing on the same platform.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly something here when it comes to a game on this level. I mean, by this level, I mean, like, it's a remake of classic-looking visuals, so there's no reason. I mean, Mike kind of already explained it, but
and it's
yeah, there's something there.
That it's a Genesis mainstay, and we're all playing it on a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
I mean, Switch is definitely it seems like the best place for these sort of, even though this isn't, like, a digital game, but, like, for those kind of, like, smaller team digital games that aren't, like, going ridiculous with graphical fidelity or something, right? I mean, you may as well just have it portable if you want it to be.
Yep, agreed. I mean, if I could stream it from my PC to my Switch, I would totally do that. But the Switch is just form factor. It's just so convenient in so many cases. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to pass by. I don't know. I don't really have any other games. I got a new desk with IKEA. Put it together.
Well, what's this Eclipse thing you're talking about?
We already talked about the Eclipse. The eclipse that happened in the sky.
We're confused. We're looking at the rundown.
You had it down in your rundown of games.
So I know, but it's like
Eclipse. That was some early access.
It's what you've been up to. Oh my God, you guys are very sharp people. God, this is what I have to deal with, everybody. Oh my God. I've also been sucking according to my rundown. I don't remember writing that, but that's what I've been up to according to my own rundown. I don't know. Anything else?
I'm totally in the throes of Frozen Throne. Hearthstone's new expansion.
All right, wait. You guys get like 2-3 minutes of Hearthstone talk tops. You guys should honestly start your own Hearthstone podcast and just get it over with.
There's a lot of those already.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then don't turn this one into one. Is what I'm saying. So go.
Well, you're taking our time right now.
So I know right now the Hearthstone community is losing its poop over Druid. I'm not, but I'm also slumming it at really low ranks, but I'm just experimenting with things. I've played 2 really stupid decks this last weekend. One, which was actually very effective, was a Evolved Shaman full of just tech cards, and I evolved the tech cards if I didn't need them, and I just played them and messed everyone up.
Were you playing the Jade Druid tech card?
Yes. I played every tech card. I played oozes. I played things to stop spells. That new Spellbreaker card. I played silences. I played Dirty Rats to break up combos. And at one point, I was 6-0 with it. And just because no one's prepared for it, but it was just thwarting a bunch of people. And then I went on a 12-game losing streak with it. But it was a lot of fun. And right now, I am playing a rogue deck that's all about a couple of the new Death Rattle cards, but also about drawing cards, plopping down Mountain Giants, and then using so many spells, and then plopping down Arcane Giants, and nobody can stop you. And then when that's all done, you find ways to mill yourself till you break up your Skeletomancers, and then you get 8/8 skeletons, and there's nobody can stop 2 sets of Giants plus 2 8/8 skeletons.
And nobody except for me, and I'm stopping it right now. No, if you guys have anything else you want to talk about, that's fine.
I want to talk a little bit about this. this Druid problem. I think it is becoming a bit of a problem, and I understand that, maybe it's too early, maybe we shouldn't all be freaking out yet, but I also hope that it's not going to be kind of the classic Blizzard thing where we don't see a solution to it for a whole nother month.
That's the big concern, yes.
Right, it's because right now it is a lot of Druids. They got a lot of really good cards in the expansion, plus they have the ramp tools that allows them to play them real early. And even just besides that, it's like, it's either that or you're playing decks that counter Druid, which are aggro decks, and it's like the same aggro decks, right? Like, I don't know how much longer I could play against Pirate Warrior. Like, that's been a thing for so long.
I haven't seen one.
I've been playing a few
days.
Today. Yeah, it's been just.
But you're probably at a higher rate than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I think we were always kind of doubting that this expansion could be as good as Ungora, which was like the best expansion that games had. Probably since launch. I think it was probably my favorite one. So, and I'm not trying to crap on this one right now because it is fun. There are some cool cards in here, but it would just be so much better if Blizzard is just a little bit more proactive about kind of adjusting things this time, so that we're not stuck in a kind of lame meta.
Yeah, and to echo the guys on one of my favorite Hearthstone podcasts, it's called The Golden Wisp, and their last plea was to be players. When there's a new set, don't take that deck, but try to experiment with your fun things yourself.
Right, but I mean, you ultimately can't trust players to police that stuff themselves.
No.
Right, but I know what you mean. No, that's what I do.
People are rushing. I feel people are rushing out to get the best decks quicker than with any expansion so far.
Right. Yeah, it's annoying.
Is that enough, Jeff? Do we have to stop now?
Oh, it's always enough with Hearthstone. I'm being a dick, but I used to like Hearthstone.
Yes, you are.
I'm just over it. It just, you know what it is? It's just Sonic sucks so bad. That's what it is.
God, no.
Shared text. Is it the shared text going to be Mike? Jeff makes Mike sad for 2 hours.
It makes me furious for 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
It makes me boiling angry.
It's just not good. Neverwinter, Jason, you wanted to talk about that, and then we'll move on to the news.
I'm not going to talk much about this, but I've just been playing it some more, and so I'm starting to hit the same problems I had the first time I played through Neverwinter. Is that it gets grindy in a way that MMOs don't always get grindy, but that free-to-play MMOs get grindy, where you feel like you're hitting that, I've got too much stuff, but I have to buy places to store things, and I don't like that, and if I want to start getting these other things quicker, I have to buy the currency in order to get the really hot stuff, and I'm not enjoying that aspect of it.
Well, we should probably move on to news. I mean, Mike, did you ever play any Neverwinter? Is that an MMO you ever touched?
No, I never touched that one.
Okay.
I was burned on the first, that Neverwinter Nights game that came out on PC way long ago because I never got into that. And I wanted to because I thought the name Neverwinter sounded really cool when I was 13.
It does sound cool. I really like it.
It does. That's such a good fantasy name. But yeah, I never actually got into Neverwinter.
No, that's just because, Mike, he doesn't realize it, but his playing Warcraft as much as he does. He is playing D&D. He just doesn't realize it.
I get it.
Hey, Mike, have you ever played actual tabletop D&D?
Just dabbled here and there.
I've
always
never
been,
touched it. I've always wanted to.
Oh, I gotta get you guys together.
We should, yeah.
It's one of the few generic nerd things I've never really gotten into is D&D.
And
an anime are my two barriers to being a complete.
Yeah, this Christmas we should record us playing D&D online or something and put that up on the site or something.
I'm too busy watching Star Trek and wrestling.
Playing your booby Vita games.
My weeb games. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to the news. Let's just start here right at the top. Last night, Microsoft had its Gamescom press conference at the Gamescom fan event. Yeah, okay.
Are we sure they did?
So I was kind of only half paying attention to this. I was busy this weekend. I don't remember. I went to IKEA and put this desk together. So I was like, oh man, they're having that thing tonight, aren't they? That's weird. So Mike, were you paying more closer attention than I was?
No, not as it was happening.
Okay, but I mean, that's been the response, right?
Yeah.
They announced a vertical stand for the Xbox One, and that's the big thing. But I mean, it seemed like there was some other news, like this ReCore Definitive Edition. Did that leak beforehand, or was that already announced?
Yeah, I think people had an idea that was coming.
So that's going to have the I guess content that was missing from the end of the game.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you reviewed that, right?
And I liked it, but it was a buggy, kind of unrefined mess. So it's definitely a game that could really benefit from.
Oh, I mean, it was literally missing content. They just cut it out before and it seems like they were going to finish it and put it in here.
I didn't know that. It makes sense now that I hear that.
Yeah.
But the question is, did ReCore hit with people enough that those who didn't buy it the first time might buy it the second time?
Probably
or is
not.
it just going to be a case of Xbox players wanting things they can play that no one else can?
Xbox One X is going to come out on November 7th, and people are going to buy a couple of games with it, and this might be one of them. Or it's one of the they're also adding.
They're going to buy Call of Duty and Madden.
Yeah, but I mean, people buy the Xbox One is as tough as it is, having as hard of a time as it's having against Sony and Nintendo right now. Its attach rate, I understand, is still relatively high. The people that do own Xboxes are buying a lot of games. So maybe people will buy this. I think it's more likely because apparently ReCore Definitive Edition is also going to be in the Xbox Game Pass, which is Microsoft's $10 a month Netflix of games where you get to download the games or whatever. It might just be one of those things where it's like, oh, there's another game that I haven't played yet that I'd like to try that's an exclusive. Why not just $10? I can play it right now, and then they just keep their subscription.
Well, frankly, I don't have it and I haven't touched it, but I might be tempted to play something like ReCore if I had a $10 subscription a month.
Exactly, and I think it's right on the border where it's like, if there's that, and maybe this other game I want to try, why not just go for it?
Yeah,
I like ReCore enough.
If you like the idea of a Netflix service for your games, and which is a really good idea, I love that idea. Paying $10 a month, if you're paying it, you don't really care what games are on it as long as they're things you find one thing you like.
Yep.
Even if you don't like it and you put, say, 5 hours into it, that's still, it was only $10.
Yep. These are all things we're going to talk about, I think, in our second segment where we actually talk about what Microsoft is doing with its first-party games and how it views creating value for people who buy into its ecosystem. But other stuff from Microsoft at Gamescom, it is publishing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds for the console. So I think
which means it's only publishing it on Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah,
which is significant.
Right. So I mean, it was always going to be a timed exclusive. Now I wonder if this makes that timed window longer. I mean, is that the implication here?
First of all, the word time exclusive is BS. It's either exclusive or it's not.
Right. Yeah. So it's a timed delay. It's a purposely organized. Timed exclusive is very convenient when you think about it, Jason. but I know what you mean. You're absolutely right. So it's not going to come out to PlayStation 4 for a while. We didn't know what that window was, and it seems like this is an escalation of the relationship between Microsoft and Bluehole, the developer of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So I wonder if it's going to be a longer window, or it doesn't affect it, or what. So
my question will be, is there a market on Xbox One for this game? I would be very surprised if there wasn't.
Yeah.
But will they get the kind of rabid player base that we're finding on the PC side?
It'll probably be similar to what like Overwatch, right? Where obviously most of its players are on PC, but there's still a decent amount on those other systems.
I think it's bigger than you realize for Overwatch.
I think it is. I think it is actually, because I thought the same thing of Rocket League for a really long time. I'm like, man, Rocket League, that community on PC is so rabid and they're so loud. They must be the biggest one. And no, it's like half the size of Xbox One, which is like 2/3 the size of the PlayStation 4. It was quite surprising. I think console just tends to sell so many more games that audience is always looking for games.
My question though is, let's face it, Battlegrounds is janky. And console players aren't used to games.
Xbox One players, though, are starting to get used to it because they've had Ark in early access for a long time now. What was it? They've had a couple other early access games on there that were in a similar vein. And
isn't Ark not as janky as Battlegrounds at this point?
At this point, yeah, but I mean, only it's about to hit 1.0, but it's definitely got some jank to it. I don't know.
I don't think it's such a hot game right now. Even the jankiness doesn't even seem to be an issue on PC that much anymore. I think the Xbox One people get used to it pretty quickly.
I know.
In fact, it might even be less janky in Xbox One, right? Because they're all running on pretty much the same hardware, a little different.
I told 3 people at a birthday party for a kid I was at this weekend about announced Battlegrounds, and I was mentioning they're all Star Wars freaks. I was mentioning that. Oh yeah, one of Rogue One screenwriters plays with our group.
Oh yeah.
And they said, oh, and they all ended up buying it that night. And so I sold 3 copies.
Yeah, there you go. So you're doing your part for Blue Hole.
The thing these 3 all have in common is the fact that they are primarily console players and not PC players, and they went and bought it for their PCs.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of game where it's going to get people so excited that they're going to go out and maybe build a PC for the first time ever. Like, it's having that sort of impact, but I don't think that's going to hurt its chances on Xbox One. I think that's going to be a huge game. I mean, especially when you look at the holiday relative to, like, there's not a lot of games coming out that are exclusive for the Xbox One, and this might be the thing that, like, gets a lot of that focus. We should move on. Just other quick things. Microsoft has the Xbox One S Minecraft bundle, a new bundle. They've had one before, but now it's got like a Minecraft theme Xbox One that does look cool, and it's like transparent on one side, I guess. I don't know. Also, they announced Age of Empires 4 from Relic Entertainment, the people that made Company of Heroes. This is that's a pretty big deal, I think, for that PC gaming audience that has been skeptical of Microsoft. So
well. Regardless if you're skeptical of Microsoft or not, it's a big deal just because one of the best studios making strategy games today is turning its attention to Age of Empires.
It's just, and it's just nice that, like, almost from the point of view of Microsoft giving a lot of money to this developer that deserves it. Like, almost from that point of view, it's a good story.
Although I was kind of trying to read, like, because I don't play very many strategy games in general, and I was trying to read what people thought about this. It seemed like I was reading a lot of people were kind of down on Relic. I guess some people didn't like Dawn of War 3.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I mean,
well, what's interesting about Dawn of War 3 is the first Dawn of War was traditional RTS. The second was more of a RPG tactics game that was in real time. And the third is kind of more back to the old RTS.
Yeah, it splits the difference, right? Yeah.
Kind of splitting the difference. And what's really cool about it is the fact that Relic experiments. And take a look at Company of Heroes. The first was a total experiment, and it became one of the most beloved strategy games of its era.
With an Age of Empires 4, though, I don't know how much you can experiment. I think people are going to expect something pretty traditional there.
One of my favorite Age of Empire games is actually the one that was on the DS, Age of Kings.
Oh, I love that game. That game was so good. That was a turn-based one, though, right?
Yeah, and that sold me on Age of Empires.
God, it was such a good game.
I mean, not Age of Empires. It sold me on the DS as a system.
Yeah,
and
it was basically like really complicated Advance Wars, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it just shows you that they've the folks who've dealt with the IP have experimented once before, and it was a success. A lot of people really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and very fondly remembered.
Mm-hmm. And it shows that this is a franchise that's open to experimentation. So I'm really curious to see what Relic will do with it. I think it's going to be a good move regardless.
Moving on, Sonic Mania is the highest rated new Sonic game in 15 years. I have the link here. I think this actually goes to the Sega or Sonic account on Twitter. Like that's
like them who said it.
Yeah, so they're like, oh god, it happened.
Yay.
I thought we're done with Sonic.
Huh?
We're done talking Sonic.
Hey, we're not going to talk about how it used to not be good and now it is finally. We're not going to talk about that for sure. I just want to see steam come out of his ears. Sonic Mania is the highest rated new Sonic game in 15 years. I think it's not surprising based on any of the talk around it.
Right.
This has got to be
a lot of bad Sonic games were out for a while.
Yeah.
There's some okay ones. So. It's very easily the best Sonic game since Sonic Knuckles. And I even had some people mad at me when I said that. They're like, what about Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations? I'm like, those games were fine.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, I mean, I as a absolute non-Sonic fan can appreciate that that's the case. So I wonder where they go from here. I hope they just realize that they can do Sonic Mania 2 with all new stuff.
It's going to be awkward, I think, when Sonic Forces comes out later this year.
Yeah, God. I mean, I hope
it's kind of weird.
I hope it doesn't go. I mean, Sega doesn't strike me as this kind of company anymore. But I hope they're not like, oh, we're like either jealous or annoyed that this studio of like kind of Westerners is taking over and it's now the Sonic team. I don't think Sega's like that, but maybe. I think Nintendo would be like that, but they're never in that situation.
Nintendo would be like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I hope they're just like, hey, Sonic Mania can totally just keep being its own thing. Sonic Forces is going to come out, and it's going to sell to the younger audience that is like watching the cartoons still. I think that's who that's aimed at. That's fine. I think they can have both. I think both can exist. Sonic Mania 2 should just be more of this with a lot more new levels, and then they should also start doing Streets of Rage Mania and a couple other things.
How do we know that? How do we know that Sega will have a sequel for it?
Because it's going to sell so well, they have to.
It's going to sell. I think it's going to sell pretty well. If Crash Bandicoot sold as well as it did, mark my words, Sonic Mania is going to sell pretty well.
Yeah, I still don't understand how that happened.
It just turns out these things...
I was telling you, we got to talk about how Crash Bandicoot doesn't feel as good as Mario now, because that was happening too. That was
the story there was Crash Bandicoot doesn't feel as good as old Crash Bandicoot. People were mad that the jump wasn't right in this new one compared to the old one, so...
It's fine.
So yeah, God. Nothing's as good as Nintendo, Mike. Shut up.
Apparently.
Jurassic World Evolution announcement trailer. So this is this Jurassic World theme park creation game. It kind of seems like, how the hell has this never happened before?
There was one before a long time ago for like PC. I never really played it, but some people liked it.
Okay. But neat that's happening.
But what's really cool about this is it's Frontier Development.
Yeah, I didn't care about this until you told me that. So.
Yeah, so that's the folks who make Planet Coaster, and it's the first time they're making a theme park game that it's an IP. And so this is quite significant because Planet Coaster, it whips the butt of
anything
Planet Coaster is good stuff.
Yeah, it's not. It's better than Roller Coaster Tycoon and everything else. Yeah,
when it comes to Roller Coaster Tycoon, it whips its butt. Thank you.
Yeah, it's the cities, whatever that cities game is, like the SimCity.
Skyline.
Yes, exactly.
And you see, and you think about it, Frontier Developments has two excellent games out these days that they're supporting very well. When you look at the Planet Coaster, and then we look at Elite Dangerous, a game that just continues to grow with its support of live services.
I'm just thinking about how those games are so different and yet kind of for the same people in a way. Yes, I'm excited that developer has found a way to like really build on its success with Planet Coaster.
Oh God, I thought you were just gonna make a life finds a way joke.
No, I would just make a Goldblum joke. And
hey, Jeff, you see that? How Planet Coaster teamed up with Cedar Point to like show off their new coaster. That was really neat.
I was hearing about that. I was wondering if that was the Planet Coaster people, because I was only kind of half hearing it. But yeah, I love that. Cedar Point, Ohio, man.
Obviously, you didn't read Mike's story, Jeff.
I did not. No, God, if I read Mike's story, I think about his face, and it's a whole thing. It's very upsetting. No, but yeah, Cedar Point. I grew up on that place. I went there for like a band, like the band trip in like 7th grade.
Oh, it's a big Ohio, Michigan deal.
Yeah. What's that? Wait, what's that, Mike? You said it was a...
It's a big deal in our area.
Yeah, Michigan, absolutely, yeah. And then what'd you say, Jason? You said...
Oh, I just said where it was.
Yeah, it's Sandusky, Ohio. Yeah.
Because Mike wrote this up, and it's like, okay, what's a Cedar Point? I thought it was a roller coaster.
Yeah, no, it's a huge deal in the Midwest, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, anyone in the Midwest knows all about it. Yeah, the Magnum roller coaster. Yeah, okay, I could just talk about Cedar Point, but I'm not going to do that. So
we don't have an analog in Northern California.
Yeah, I'm trying to like maybe Magic Mountain, I guess, was kind of something.
No, that's in Southern California.
Yeah, okay, so it's just not Northern.
And
California.
That's always been, and that's a Six Flags park.
Yeah, and I don't think they're quite as big as Cedar Point. Cedar Point can kind of expand because there's so much space in Ohio. Enough of that. So Valve kind of got like a lot of people upset at it last week because they came out very firmly and said, hey, if you were trying to take advantage of our free keys that we give to developers, we're going to maybe investigate you and see if you're actually trying to take advantage of us. So if you've only sold 1,000 copies on Steam and you request 500,000 free keys for the Steam store, we're going to look into you. And people were starting to freak out, thinking, oh, now Valve's going to stop giving out free keys. They want to lock down their platform. They don't want to like open this up to developers. But they've come out with their statement. I believe this was on Reddit, and here's what it says. I'll just read it. It's completely okay for partners to sell their games on other sites via Steam keys, and also run discounts or bundles on other stores. And we'll continue granting free keys to help partners do those things. So they don't want to interfere with that stuff. It's just very much about people abusing it. And it seems like it might be coming from trading cards where people want to make a really shitty game and then issue a bunch of free keys and then redeem those keys and sell trading cards for 5 cents a piece and eventually start making a profit at some point. I don't know. It seems like money laundering to me. But Valve seems like it's cracking down on the right things here and not trying to affect anyone that might get caught in the crossfire. So it seemed like it was one of those overblown things when it first got announced, and now Valve's starting to clean it up like it always does.
So my question is, how much when it comes to development time that you put into a bad game, quote unquote, how much does that cost versus how many of those 5 cent, 2 cent, 1 cent, 1/4 of a cent trading cards you have to sell to make that up? That just seems ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing here is telling me, like, give me all the questions I should go investigate, and we should write a story about this. I'm trying to. I'm thinking about it. Because, like, clearly there is some interesting economy there happening where at some point it becomes profitable, or maybe some people are just lunatics and they're losing money and they don't realize it, but I doubt it. Typically when you hear about a scheme like this, it's because someone's done the math and they realize how they can make money with very little effort. But yeah, I don't know. We'd have to actually talk to some people in that scene and see how it works. And we'll try to do that and see if we can get it up on the site.
I can see though how some people would freak out, especially not just selling it on other things, but doing humble bundles.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. It's Steam keys are what everyone wants when they buy a game, no matter where they buy it. So that could have. I'm sure it shook a few people, but it was never really a problem. I think this is the same guideline that Steam has always had. So it's just they've come out and said it, and we're very firm about it. Mass Effect Andromeda, update from the studio.
Android might have done better for them.
Maybe. They're done making single-player content for that game. No more, not even updates, just to make it work better. That game has been abandoned hardcore. The multiplayer is still going to get updated because for some reason people play that. It baffles me, but yeah, that game came and has already went.
See you later.
Now, is this because people just aren't playing the single player anymore?
Yeah, I mean they're not playing it and no one's buying it. I think it peaked and it's not gonna it's not gonna show up in the top 10 again. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 has already outsold it for this year. So I mean,
well, Grand Theft Auto 5 has outsold a lot of games.
Yeah, totally, it has, but it shouldn't have outsold a new Mass Effect, the 5-year-old Grand Theft Auto 5 should not have outsold a new Mass Effect.
The one game kind of really turned that franchise into something that was maybe going to be evergreen for a while too. No, it's done.
I mean,
it's done.
No, you're right. Totally, it's done. But I think that has more to do with the way EA treats its things. It doesn't want to fuck around with anything that's not a guarantee, and now they turned it from a guarantee to not a guarantee with one game. So,
did that damage start with Mass Effect 3?
Yeah,
a little bit, but I think people were willing to forgive that if this one, was
right.
a good game.
Yep. I mean, I would think, you bring back Casey Hudson, and right there you're like, oh, we could do another Mass Effect now. But they're not going to do that because EA. Finally, Crackdown 3 delayed to spring 2018. This is something we could talk about more in the second segment, but boy, Microsoft doesn't have a lot of games this holiday. They haven't had a lot of games this entire friggin' 12 months.
It feels like they've taken 2017 off, which is a strange thing to say about a company that's releasing a quote-unquote new system.
Yep. This is something we'll talk a lot. We'll talk a lot more about in the second half. First, we're going to go to a break, and when we return, we're going to talk about how Microsoft just isn't really doing a lot in terms of first-party development or even first-party publishing. We'll be right back.
I know, restroom.
Yep, no problem. Just don't talk during the commercial break this time. That was you, Mike.
Going to the restroom now. Oh, I dropped my headphones. There they go.
Mike.
Whether developing, playing, or simply hosting games on a server, Intel makes it happen. And Intel wants to make sure the biggest innovations in gaming continue to happen on the PC by giving developers a hand with the Intel Game Dev program. All you have to do is sign up, and Intel will provide the resources necessary to help you continue to innovate and make gaming even more amazing. Head on over to the Game Dev program at software.intel.com/gamedev to get started. Again, that URL is software.intel.com/gamedev.
All right, Jason. We're back. We're going to talk about how we heard Mike flushing the bathroom on the podcast, which is always a great audio journey for everyone involved. Yep, yeah. So as soon as he gets his headset, Mike.
I hear you.
But yeah, you know what else we heard?
My toilet flush.
That's the good stuff. It's just like I was telling Jason, it's an audio journey that I love taking all the time.
There it is.
Okay.
You heard me wash my hands.
Yeah. I think that's what our listeners come to us for. Jason disagrees, I think, but I don't know. I'm all for it. It's the Sonic of podcast right there.
Jason yelled at me for flushing when I was in San Francisco because of the water drought. I'm like, I don't know about this. I feel like I should still be flushing toilets.
I'll bring a Great Lake next time. So yeah, we are going to talk about that thing we just talked about, Crackdown 3 getting delayed, and putting Microsoft in a situation where for the entire year of 2017, they were only going to publish 3 games. That was Forza 7, Halo Wars 2, and Super Lucky's Tale. For the
I like how Super Lucky's Tale counts.
I mean, they're publishing it. Like I was being very generous in terms of how I was counting things. This is not digital. This is retail games. So.
Are they publishing Cuphead too?
Okay, maybe Cuphead was so maybe it was 4 instead of 3. So wait, what did I look
up Cuphead?
Yeah, Cuphead should be coming out this year.
Isn't that the whole thing?
Yeah.
November 17th.
Yeah, okay.
Studio MDHR is publishing Cuphead, not Microsoft.
Okay, so that is what it is. All right, yes, that's an exclusive for the Xbox and PC, but they're not publishing it. So that's where I was going with that. Just wonder what Microsoft Studios is doing relative to Nintendo's publishing efforts and Sony's or Activision, EA, anyone else. They are now also publishing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and if that comes out in 2017, that'll be another game, so that will bring them back up to 4. But again, that's not a first-party development effort. That is just a first-party publishing effort where they are taking someone else's game and making sure it gets the support it needs, which is, there's still something to that. It's just not what we've come to expect from our big platform holders in consoles or even PC. I mean, I guess Valve being the exception there, where they're very much not making a lot of games. But Microsoft is not Valve.
No, this is very strange. I mean, the games that you mentioned, you have Halo Wars 2, which is, despite being a quote-unquote Halo game, that's my phrase today, quote-unquote, it's a console RTS, right? Like, it seemed like nobody even really talked about that game when it came out, right? It's not a huge deal.
I think people that really like those games really like that game, but there are not a lot of people who like those games. I mean, if they're not StarCraft 2, and even StarCraft 2 has started to kind of, fade away.
Right, so that seems like not a huge deal already. So there's that, and then the Super Lucky Tales is just, a console port of a platformer for virtual reality that people were always kind of like, this is kind of cute. It seemed like people liked it because of the virtual reality,
right? Not
because of its platforming.
I liked it because it was in virtual reality. I'm not convinced of how it's going to translate into, being on the TV. We'll see. I don't know, but it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for publishers.
And then Forza, Forza's nice, but there's been a lot of Forzas.
Yeah, and again, that series has established itself as maybe the premier racing franchise in all of gaming, but if you don't like racing games and you don't like real-time strategy and you don't care about some VR port, Microsoft doesn't have a lot for you this entire year. It has 0 for you. I mean, PUBG on console does make a difference, and they are publishing that. And is that what they're completely relying on? Where are the games from Microsoft? It's just so strange.
Here's my question. Weren't we asking this question about Sony in 2015?
Yes, but
it was a little bit earlier in the game. It seems less forgivable in 2017.
But what was Sony preparing to do? They were preparing to launch their next big console the next year, which was the Pro. So could this just be a case of where Microsoft was focused on the next Xbox and will be making this up in the following year?
No. So here's my idea behind what you just described. It's going in the wrong direction for Microsoft. I did a tweet, and I'll get it up here in a second. Microsoft has made fewer and fewer games over time. Sony has ramped things up in the opposite direction, is starting to make more and more games each year. I think 2015, Sony was still in this place where just like 2014 and 2013 before, they didn't invest a ton in first-party development because they didn't know the PlayStation 4 was going to sell like it did. They're coming off the PlayStation 3, which was disappointing. It didn't sell very well. They were far behind Microsoft in the United States, where most people, the biggest gaming market. So Sony was playing it very conservatively, and they're like, hey, we want to have this console, we want to have this platform. It does make us money, but it's not going to be this huge thing, and we don't want to make a bad bet on it, so we're not going to put a ton of money into first-party development and publishing. Once 2013 happened, and it was a huge success, and then all of 2014 it continued to be this huge success, and it was just selling so much faster than any other Sony console so far. They were like, oh god, we got to put a ton of money into publishing, and now we are starting to see the results of that realization at the beginning of this year, when there were so many huge Sony games. Last year, and they're going to see it probably through next year as well. And that is the trajectory that Sony is on, where Microsoft is just like having maybe a couple of games that didn't perform like they did, and now they're starting to get skittish, and maybe they are starting to say maybe we shouldn't be putting a ton of money into first party development. That's the big difference, I think.
And you're talking about last year, Jason. It just off the top of my head, they at least had Uncharted 4 that year.
I was referring to 2015.
So 2015,
the slow year for them.
Was it? But see, even then we knew that their next year would be going right, and even that year, 2015, you still had Bloodborne, right? You still had which Ratchet and Clank was maybe that year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's still things.
A couple of things.
It was still probably a better year than Microsoft's having now.
Yeah.
But here's my question. With so many multi-platform games, especially so many of the biggest franchises, being multi-platform, does it matter?
It matters.
It matters.
So, okay. So I think.
Okay, and back it up. Where's your proof? Because people are always saying it matters, and I never see proof.
Well, I think Sony's the proof, but I mean, Jason, I think you're right that that's what Microsoft's argument would be. But I mean, Mike, you did say it matters. Explain why.
Well, people make first-party games. I think that's some proof, right? If that didn't matter, I don't think you'd be bothering to do that. Spending all this money establishing franchises.
Where the hell would Nintendo be if it didn't make first-party games?
Right.
They wouldn't.
Yeah, but Nintendo's the one. It seems to me that the first-party matters.
Yeah, but I think, I think Sony and Microsoft could be Nintendo if they thought they could be, if they believed that they could be.
Or is it the fact that you've got one system where you have a better breadth of experiences than you do on another? You take a look at Sony, and with their third-party publishers, you have more people making RPGs for their system than for the Xbox. You have different types of sports games than what you get on the Xbox. You have a lot of smaller shooters than what you get on the Xbox. You have all kinds of the experimental indie games that were appearing there. You've got some VR stuff now. Is it just the fact that more people are looking at Sony, and the fact that folks there who are making games for them, be it first party or third party, are just doing different things?
Well, we can talk about first party or third party, but it's ultimately exclusives. And the problem with Microsoft is that because they don't have a big Japan factor, right? A lot of their exclusives are going to come from within, so they should be incentivized to make more first-party exclusives, and instead it's the opposite, where they make less. So Jeff, I mean, has Microsoft beaten Sony 1 month this year in the NPDs?
I think maybe one.
Yes. And this was a year. Right?
It's possible. It's usually in the summer.
This was a year where Sony had Horizon, Nier Automata, Neo, Crash Bandicoot, all of these exclusives that were all getting good sales, great word of mouth, a lot of internet mind share, just people talking about them. I think that definitely matters.
Well, remember, wasn't Neo? It's on PC.
Yeah, but
we
actually already talked about this earlier, where we said that Rocket League and Overwatch actually tend to sell better on consoles. Like, if Overwatch is actually selling better on consoles than PC, which we don't know that for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Then it just seems like consoles are such a different conversation than a game that happens to be on both one console and PC. We've seen Microsoft doesn't care about that. All of its games are on PC and Xbox One now. All of its first-party games. They definitely see that as not an issue anymore. I got the chart up, and I'll just run through this. Let's start in 2010. one of the peak years for Xbox 360. Microsoft Studios published 11 games to retail, and these are all retail releases. They don't include Xbox Live Digital only. That's another conversation. It's related, but it's another conversation. So in 2010, it was 11 games. In 2011, they had 8, and then 10, and then 7, 7, 7, 5, 3. So there's a clear pattern here, and so I think one of the issues is games are getting more expensive.
Well, was a part of this also they had Bungie and 343 working on Halo games at the same time too?
No, was there ever a cross tie between those two?
I think there might have been some overlap there at the end, but it wasn't. They never released games simultaneously, like while Bungie was still there. I think.
Yeah, but he still had two studios.
There was some overlap.
Let's say that gives them 1. Then they're at 4 this year. Big whoop.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, I just don't think that's. I mean, that's the point, though, is that they had a huge studio, and instead of making a studio that could go on to make a game like Destiny, they made a Halo factory in 343, and then they made a Gears of War factory, and then I think beyond that, they have their Forza factories, and then they're not really concerned with making anything new. This is another point I brought up. Phil Spencer, I think, did a really good job of fixing a lot of the problems that many gamers had with the Xbox One. He turned it into a console that you could, realistically own and get enjoyment from and play any third-party game and a couple of Microsoft exclusives and be happy with, except for he hasn't established an identity of releasing games that will define the Xbox One in the way that so many games define the Xbox 360, like Gears of War. It wasn't first party, but Call of Duty. They made a bunch of good publishing deals with Call of Duty to help that define that system. He hasn't done that.
Are we gonna see a case though where what defines the Xbox are the PC games that you can play on the Xbox that you can't play on the PS4, or you may not have a gaming rig to play? For that audience, you take a look at Path of Exile, and it's got 16 million players worldwide before it even went to Xbox, and now it's on the Xbox. You got P-Bug coming to the Xbox. I wonder if that's going to be the market that puts them over.
So here's what I think. Phil Spencer has already kind of explained his reasoning here. I don't think that's it. He comes out and says, basically, we don't want to invest in a lot of huge single-player games in the way that Sony has, because I play 700 hours of Destiny. This is Phil Spencer in the first person saying he plays 700 hours of Destiny, and most games that are going to be huge these days are these games that are online connected experiences that people play for really long times. So we want to invest in fewer games that are bigger and are services and last forever. And I think this has been a detriment. I think that strategy is, while it's true and it's accurate, it is a good representation of how much of the gaming market works today. Both Sony and Nintendo have correctly predicted that these prestige games are the things that convince this core audience to pick up your system in the first place, and then they end up playing those service games on your system afterwards. And I think Microsoft has just missed that is a core part of its strategy that doesn't work.
You can't get people buying Splatoon 2 unless they buy Breath of the Wild first.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference for Splatoon 2, which was the top-selling game on as a console exclusive last month.
For ARMS even. I mean, why would ARMS sell anything? How many of those people own Breath of the Wild? Why is that why they got a Switch? And I just in this about the Xbox One specifically, that sales pitch just seems so hard to me without some kind of compelling software. And maybe Crackdown 3 was never going to be it anyways, but it was something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's even beyond like just the console exclusive argument or the pitch for the Xbox One argument. It's where are Microsoft's values when it comes to games? Does it value original creation of new properties? And it so far it doesn't. With the Xbox One, it doesn't seem like it does. It doesn't seem like that's where its interests lie. Jason, you're muted.
Idea. I'm sorry. I think it hurts the whole upgrade idea because I'm just looking at this year thinking, do I need an Xbox One X? And I'm thinking to myself, I barely played my Xbox One this year. Why would I pay hundreds of dollars for slightly better graphics on a system I'm not really playing? And I'm looking ahead, and I see the games, and I don't need any of that.
But you're talking about making new original single-player games. What do you mean by that? Do you mean new properties or
something like Horizon? Let's say something like Horizon.
Because you take a look at Sony, they're doing some of that, but also Bloodborne. No, that's just another Souls game.
Yeah, but
Final Fantasy 15. That's a 15.
Well,
that's a multi-platform game. That's not even that.
Yeah, and they didn't publish that either. Like, I mean, so it's not.
But you know what I mean.
Another
version of MLB The Show.
Sony doesn't get flying colors on that either. And I've been critical of them before. This is true for both people. Both companies have done a very bad job of making new franchises this generation.
Right.
Like Horizon seems like the only big example I can think of Sony or Microsoft making a new AAA game in this generation, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's going to be a thing."
It's just relative.
Horizon 2.
It's just relative to one another.
But they're doing a better job than Microsoft.
They're at least making the effort at all. And Horizon, I think, you have to acknowledge it as a turning point of saying it sold really well. It was a risk, and they did it, and it worked. And they could have been really risk averse, like it seems Microsoft is, and companies even if we get away from the platform holders, companies like Electronic Arts, very afraid of taking those kinds of risks. They're not making a lot of original properties anymore. They're shutting down their successful properties like Mass Effect. They want nothing to do with that kind of stuff. But Microsoft doesn't really have that same luxury that EA does. Microsoft has to sell its platform as well, and I know this is the other part of the argument for Phil Spencer is we just want people using Xbox Live. We want them playing all their games through there, and they can do that on PC and they can do that on Xbox One. We don't care. But that platform could wither and die so quickly if out of nowhere it could just vanish in front of their eyes if they aren't bringing people to the platform in the first place with these tent poles that they can't get anywhere else. It's surprising that it feels like they still don't see that.
Let's not forget that there probably is no Xbox without the first Halo, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I know it's a different time,
but I don't think it is that different. I think that's what Sony and definitely Nintendo have proven that you don't like it's not the PC. It's not Valve owning Steam and making things so convenient on this open platform that everyone defaults to Steam because it's just like, of course I'm going to buy my games on there. It's the easiest place to manage my games and my friends and all this other crap. And they have really great sales, so I'll just buy my games there. You're controlling closed platforms, and you're trying to convince people to buy into these closed platforms, and you just have to do that with huge, attractive single player, not just a single player, but original content.
Especially when you're already, PlayStation 4 is already outselling the Xbox One, right? There's already a lot of people playing those multi-platform games there.
Yeah, and
how are you possibly going to get them to switch?
Yeah,
nothing.
And even like Halo 6 and a new Gears of War game and a new Forza, like those are cool, but maybe do something new with those same franchises. That's what I'm talking about when I say like original content. Just surprise the people. I think that's what we need. I think it's going to wrap it up, though. Any other thoughts on this, guys?
Sonic 1 is good.
Sonic 2, maybe.
The one thing we didn't say about Crackdown 3 is that if it makes the game better, isn't this a better move for
I think almost everybody agrees that Crackdown 3 kind of looked like a game that probably needed to be delayed anyways.
I know a lot of people who did play it actually did talk it up and say, it turns out it's really super fun. But that narrative was buried by, this looks like a bad game just because of visually it looks like last generation. So giving it some more time to fix those visuals is probably smart in the end, for sure.
Yeah, and I think with this console exclusivity argument, that's been lost. Is the fact that,
I don't think too much of it is. I don't think any of the criticism is actually about Crackdown 3 per se. It's just a matter of
that there's nothing else there.
This Microsoft problem,
right?
Yeah, but it still ignores this game.
Yeah, totally. But if Nintendo delayed a couple of it, like one of its games from this holiday, even Super Mario, Odyssey, even if that game got delayed, they would still have Mario and Rabbids, Pokken Tournament, a couple others that are these are games you can't get anywhere else. They're original. They're interesting at least. Some of them might be very good. Some might
Pokken Tournament could get on the Wii U.
Yeah, but no one owns. No one owns a Wii U, so it doesn't matter. So there's some. That's the argument, is that when you move a game into the next year and then you look around and there's nothing else in any direction at all, that's the problem. Like you need to be able to delay games, but you need to be able to serve up content to your player base that's still going to get them excited when you do end up doing that. But yeah, and you look at that list. Microsoft could have done that in the past. In 2012, it had 10 games. You delay one of those games, you still have 9 games from that year. So
and throughout this, I have been more on the defending Microsoft side.
No, it's good.
I will say that I definitely play my Sony consoles far more than I've ever played Xbox consoles, just because the kind of games I want tend to be on Sony consoles. And I've been playing Sony consoles since the first.
Yeah, you do good devil's advocate position.
Yeah, if the only games on the Xbox One are just the games that are also on PlayStation 4, then a couple exclusive. But I mean, the only other thing which you mentioned might save them is if they get some of these niche PC, not niche, but these PC titles that you're typically only PC titles. If all of those only go to Microsoft's instead of Sony, maybe that's something, but I don't know if that's enough.
Well, you know, there is nothing wrong with owning a niche.
You just have to own it, though.
If you want to be first place.
You know,
I mean,
you know, look at Sony. They own a couple niches, and that has helped them.
Yeah, but
Nintendo.
They own a bunch of niches.
But they also those niches that they own help them own a perception among a huge population of the gaming audience. Where the niches that Microsoft own, they don't have that same reverberation through the community. Like but
we don't know which ones they might end up owning next year.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, no, totally. Yes, just so far, it's just because they're so not interconnected in the way that, like, when you look at the niches that Sony owns, they're very much going to appeal to people who like anime and like Japanese culture. I
thought their niche was that they're the all-in-one entertainment device.
Hey, I still plug it in. Well, until I don't have cable anymore. I just finally canceled it, but I still had it plugged in and used it.
That was the most hilariously mistimed thing ever. Was
and what's so funny about
cable boxes?
And what's so funny about that is what do I use for my quote unquote cable? PlayStation View.
Yeah,
which is a fantastic service.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better apparently. So that's impressive. The Sling one that's on Microsoft, the equivalent, not as good. Doesn't have as good of a DVR thing. So, what the hell?
All right, I'm done talking to you guys.
Yep, I think we're actually completely done. So
Can we break Mike?
That's how you know it's a good podcast, people. That's a good episode when you break Michael.
I'm on the clock as far as I'm concerned. You got me on till 9. What the heck? I'm not coming in tomorrow.
Mike, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet so when you're not on GamesBeat.com tomorrow?
You can find me at GamesBeat.com tomorrow. I'm also doing the Exploding Barrel podcast at ebpodcast.com. This week is our 10-year anniversary, so... Oh, yeah, that reminds me. This was our 50th anniversary episode. 50th episode.
Yeah, so, like, Mike, would you ever imagine anything lasting 50 episodes?
Yeah, try 500.
That's impressive, man. That's so nuts. That's such a big number for a podcast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I thought 100 was the number that counted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just being facetious because he's going to... Their podcast is getting 500.
You defend Microsoft to the end of there, but then you go down just
the first chance you get. I see how it is. This how you do me, Jason? God.
We're gonna crap on Jeff and Sonic. One of those things deserve it.
Sonic, yeah!
Well, I did have chili egg curry yesterday.
No. Well, chili. Hey, chili dogs.
Oh, that was a really awful line of thought right there. Jason, where can people find you on the internet? Other than the bathroom, apparently.
Yeah, well, when I'm not bugging these guys on GamesBeat.com, you'll find me on my Twitter, Jason_Wilson, and always happy to talk RPGs with y'all.
What are those? Those sound like nerd things.
I do like RPGs. Jason, should I...
I used to talk about pen and paper RPGs, too.
I need to get on that Trails of Cold Steel stuff, man. Gotta get on that.
I'm Jeff Grubb on Twitter. Spelled like it sounds. I have a YouTube page, youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. On Friday nights, I'm going to try to make it a regular thing. We are doing these big PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds tournaments on our Twitch page, twitch.tv/GamesBeat. Come join us. It was a really big audience this last Friday. A lot of viewers came and played with us.
It was, and lots of chatter online about it, too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So,
and what's really cool about these is, Jeff is transitioning more from someone who plays to somebody who just
it's a bummer. No, it's actually a lot of fun. It's totally really cool. I like doing that.
I should just be your color commentator next time.
Yeah, totally.
I'm not going to last long anyway.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's grown really quick. Like we did it the first week, and it was 200 people at the max for watching. And this week, I think we had 500 people. So it's growing quick, and those games are going to start filling up really quick. So if you want to join us, usually 8 p.m. Pacific time on Fridays is when we start. That's going to do it. I want to thank everyone for listening. We will be back next week. Until then, have a good one.
Thank you all.
Bye.
I'm waving. That was a very good wave.